evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up right here on YouTube as well as on Facebook, Twitch, and on X. I am Bryson Carver. It is fantastic to be with you today. The only downside, well, there's a couple downsides. One, we don't have any football games to talk about for another 7 months. That sucks. But the other is I'm not live. There was a few times during the spring I'll have some pre-recorded shows. I do it during the football season, but I like to go live as many times as humanly possible from September to the day after the Super Bowl. So as I always say when the show's pre-recorded, if there's anything in the world that's happened in sports, I'm aware of it. Just not the time of year watch me. So recording this a little after 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so a few hours before I would normally go on the air. But we've got a ton to talk about in the world of the NBA and in the NFL. Listen, just because the Super Bowl's over doesn't mean we don't have a number of NFL headlines and some rankings. I teased it and in certain parts of Monday's Super Bowl reaction show, but in about a half hour, my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League. I always do a top 10 list coming into the season and exiting the season. Fact of the matter is it's not going to change because we're not going to see these guys play for another 7 months. So this is pretty set in stone, especially now that Stafford's announced that he's playing next year. So we know Stafford's going to be there next year. All of these guys, rank them in the top 10. I think there'll be some ones that shock you in one way or the other, positively or negatively. Get to that in a half hour on Bryson's Best 10. It's going to be fun. Also get into the Hornets Pistons fight that happened a couple days ago. The Shams Charania dropped the suspensions today. And I thought Draymond Green on his podcast made a very interesting point and one that, frankly, I've made for years in the show. I'll get to that later on in the show today, as well as talking about the Lakers and their dysfunction. Carving up the context, a different carving up the context in the sense of we're going to look back at a segment I did last month, my biggest playoff weakness for every single NFL team, and see how close I got to see if I got those things right. All of that on today's loaded episode of Carving Up. So still feel free to chime in the comments section. We always love to get engagement. Love to hear what you guys think about what I'm saying. Chime with your own thoughts, what have you. Again, unfortunately, I won't be able to respond to them because, again, I'm not live. But let's go and get into the show. But first, last night, the San Antonio Spurs absolutely mollywopped the Lakers G League team, 136 to 108. So listen, part of the reason I say it's a G League team is because Luka's been dealing with, I think, a calf issue. LeBron James was resting on a second night of the back-to-back. Austin Reeves didn't play. So top 3 players for the Lakers are out, especially on a back-to-back after you lost to Oklahoma City without Shea the night before prior. Obviously, you have no chance whatsoever against the San Antonio Spurs with a Victor Wembanyama, who was nothing short of sensational. Put up Wemby stats, and he did it all. Look at the bottom stat first before you look at the top. 26 minutes. He just casually dropped 40 points, 12 rebounds, shot 65% for the field, 66% from three-point range. For the record, 37 of his 40 points came in the first half. So if the Lakers had their guys, by the way, DeAndre Ayton didn't play this game. Not that Ayton's a great defensive big man. God knows Jackson Hayes isn't, except when he's tackling the Wizards mascot, but that's neither here nor there. Good luck in court, Jackson. But when you watch this Spurs team, not just last night, they were obviously supposed to win and win comfortably last night, but over the breadth of the first half of this NBA season. And maybe this feels like a little bit of a spoiler for a segment that I'll do next week. I always do it post All-Star break in the NBA. I look at each of the teams that are almost certainly going to be in the playoffs and say, okay, is this team a contender or a pretender? And to me, obviously, I think most people would agree that the Spurs are obviously a championship contender. I'm not going to stamp my claim on it just yet. We're just coming out of football season. All-Star break happens this week in the NBA. There's a lot of stuff that could happen, but trade deadline's done. You'll have some guys come to contending teams. The buyout market, by and large, the teams are who they are for the rest of the season. But as of right now, folks, I'm hard-pressed to find another team I think is going to win the championship over the San Antonio Spurs. That includes the Oklahoma City Thunder. That includes the team I loved going into the season, the Denver Nuggets. And listen, not that those two teams don't have a great shot. I certainly like them a lot more than Houston because, listen, Houston got pieces I like. Şengün, Kevin Durant, and Thompson, these guys. They don't have their point guard in Fred VanVleet. They haven't had him all season, and Steven Adams is gone for the year. Houston can maybe get to the Western Conference Finals. That is their absolute ceiling, the way their roster is at right now. And then obviously you look down, Minnesota, maybe. I don't. Minnesota's had some pretty easy paths to the conference finals, with the exception of the second round in 2024 against the Nuggets. But in the conference finals, they've kind of gotten smoked, particularly last year. And then the Lakers aren't contenders. We'll get to them in a moment. The Warriors. If we had Jimmy Butler, I think we would be. But guess what? We don't have Jimmy Butler. Warriors aren't contenders. And then you just kind of go into play-in territory. Is that the biggest thing that sticks out for San Antonio is their length and their depth. Is that when you've got guys, obviously you know about Victor Wembanyama, but y'all know I've been a De'Aaron Fox fan for years on the show. De'Aaron Fox is the only reason that any of us had any level of respect for the Sacramento Kings. Doesn't it feel like a million years ago when the Sacramento Kings were taking prime Steph Curry and the Warriors 7 games in the first round? Now they've lost 13 straight. Different team, obviously. De'Aaron Fox no longer there. He struck fear in me as a Warriors fan. He struck fear in a lot of people when he won Clutch Player of the Year back in the 2023 season. But he's averaging about 19 points a game, running the offense. We know, again, in the one playoff series he was in prior to getting hurt, he was torching the Warriors. Having that 1-2 option, the pick and roll with Wemby, is absolutely lethal. Then you've got guys like Stephon Castle. You've got Devin Vassell coming off the bench. Harrison Barnes, who's a good veteran guy, champion with the Warriors in 2015. Like a good, solid balance of some vets like Fox, like Harrison Barnes, but a lot of young guys. It's the reason, folks, that when the Giannis trade rumors, which now at this point I almost feel like I should put air quotes around, not rumors, but trade interest that the Bucks had in moving Giannis. I feel like the Bucks are more willing to move off Giannis than the other way around. Regardless, there's a reason that from the jump, I think it was Brian Windhorst and ESPN that said, yeah, the Spurs aren't interested. It's not that they don't think Giannis is a great player. Everybody knows who Giannis is, but it's, we've got a really young core that we like. They gel together. They're going to be together for a long time. Hopefully, again, the stupid, and I mean stupid second apron rules that the NBA has had implemented for the last few years, the worst CBA in modern NBA history. I've detailed that in a number of occasions. The fact that teams aren't rewarded for drafting well, I think is a knock on the league. It's when you have teams like Oklahoma City that have drafted well. Same with the San Antonio Spurs. Like the fact that you are now punished for developing those guys, and now you want to keep them together. Maybe that player wants to stay, but guess what? You don't have the money to make it happen. I think that's probably the biggest mistake Adam Silver's ever made in his time as commissioner, in my opinion, because if nothing else, it thwarts dynasties, and dynasties have carried the NBA for its entire history. Regardless, this is a team that's ready to win now. Long as they're healthy. Wemby, we know he's dealt with injuries the last couple of years. He was out for a time this season. Long as they're healthy for the long run, I think they're as dangerous as any team. And the fact that is this season they've lost one time to Oklahoma City. I mean, they have absolutely dominated the Oklahoma City Thunder all season long. They match up well with OKC. They match up well with everybody. Like at Denver Nuggets, again, size on size, you can combat Nikola Jokic. And Denver this season, I think, is like 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, something like that in defensive rating. They can't guard anybody. Well, when you got the guys that can score the way that a Wemby can, like Harrison Barnes can score, but De'Aaron Fox, Vassell, Stephon Castle. I mean, and I haven't even mentioned guys in the roster, Dylan Harper, Keldon Johnson. Like I said, Vassell come off the bench. Keldon Johnson, the guy I should have mentioned, come off the bench. But all of these guys they gel together, they mesh together, good guard play, wings, obviously got the big and Wemby. You still got the guy Cornette, come off the bench, formerly from Boston. Like, this is a well-rounded group, and I think they're absolutely terrifying in the Western Conference. So that's kind of what I have to say for San Antonio. I won't solidify my pick of them winning the title right now. I got to let it marinate, or just as a heads up, we're not doing a show Friday. We're going to come back on Monday after the All-Star game. I'm not going to lock it in just yet, but I'm close. Has nothing to do with last night. They were supposed to do what they did last night, but just watching over the course of the season, man, that team's good, and that team's not going nowhere. As for the Lakers, I mean, they're not going anywhere per se. They're just going to be the 5 seed for the next 2-3 years, or really whenever they decide to fire Rob Pelinka. So, and by the way, as a Golden State Warriors fan, I am not advocating for such measures. As a Warriors fan, the longer Rob Pelinka is employed by the Lakers, the better for me. But the Lakers got smoked again. Their top 3 players didn't play. But the bigger story to me is, you lose a back-to-back stretch. No Luka, but you lose a back-to-back stretch to Oklahoma City at home without Shea, and then second into the back-to-back, Wemby goes for 37 in the first half against a garbage defense. We can show you, matter of fact, this is what's going to get the Lakers beat, I think, in the first round, is they have one of the worst defenses in basketball. 23rd in defensive rating, 18th in points per game allowed. I think that should say, in terms of defensive rating, that says 177.8. I think it should say 117.8 regardless. They're 27th in the NBA are the Los Angeles Lakers in opponent field goal percentage. Teams shoot 48% from the field. They shoot 36% from three against the Los Angeles Lakers, and their defensive efficiency is 23rd in the NBA. And that happens when you have a roster that coming into this year, or I should say at the end of last year, didn't have a true big, and that was what you sacrificed, a smart sacrifice, if you even want to call it that, moving Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. Safe to say, for anyone that had any knowledge of how basketball works, the Lakers won that trade instantaneously. But you were left with Jackson Hayes, again, who's got his own issues off the court to worry about because he felt like body slamming the Wizards mascot. I digress. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton, who's a good double-double guy, but not very good defensively, can be disengaged. We know his time in Phoenix ended with Monty Williams. Can't really trust him in the postseason. Not a defensive stalwart. God knows Luka Doncic has never even attempted to be a defensive stalwart. LeBron James's prime was. Not anymore. I mean, LeBron James on an island. Or not an island, but he's, I don't want to go so far as what Patrick Beverley years ago called Chris Paul and say a cone, because that would be disrespectful. That would say he's not even trying. Like Luka, by the way. But LeBron is he's 41. I mean, what are you going to do? He's year 23. He's not supposed to be a good defender at this point in his career. He can lock in stretches, but that's not the role he's supposed to be playing in year 23. And Austin Reeves is a terrible defensive player. By the way, the guy they traded for, Luke Kennard, during the deadline, awesome shooter. Terrible defender. I think I could score on Luke Kennard, and not just because I'm white, okay? That's the situation the Lakers are in right now. And it's a rough fit because when you have a defensive coach like J.J. Redick, when you had a guy, I remember that stretch post-AD trade once Luka had come back from injury, there was a stretch of like a couple of weeks where the Lakers were the best defense in basketball. What the heck's going on? J.J. Redick is like a mastermind. And I still think he's a really smart coach. I think he thinks he has all of the answers at times, as exposed by last year's postseason. I think he believed in his own genius to a degree, which is why he played LeBron James at age 40 years old and a Luka Doncic who was overweight the entire second half, along with the other starters for the Lakers in Game 4 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, which pretty much sold the series right there. They were gassed by Game 5. But I think he's a good coach by and large. He's young. He's going to get better. It's poor roster construction. And I think the thing that is got to be disheartening if you're a Lakers fan is that once the team won the championship in 2020, it's just been a series of missteps since then. So you weren't able to bring back a lot of the guys that helped you win, the championship in 2020. You didn't bring back guys like Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, guys like that, Danny Green. Those guys weren't able to return to the team. Caruso, they ended up letting walk in 2021 in free agency. And look what Caruso's been to the Oklahoma City Thunder since then, after, leaving the Chicago Bulls. Then he make the Westbrook trade. I know everyone wants to blame LeBron for that. By the way, not saying they shouldn't, but I say let's be consistent on that and say LeBron James wanted Ty Lue and the Lakers didn't hire him. So if LeBron won the Westbrook trade, bad move. He wanted Ty Lue. Ty Lue's a little bit better of a coach than Frank Vogel and certainly a better coach than Darvin Ham. By the way, Darvin Ham hired him 2022. Made no serious moves in the offseason, made a couple of trade deadline acquisitions, such as moving on from Westbrook, made a conference finals, got swept by Denver, decided they should run it back with the same roster, 7 seed, gentlemen swept by Denver. And then they make the Luka trade. Again, I hesitate to give any sort of credit to the Lakers front office because, again, if you're in Rob Pelinka's position and you get a call, Dallas area phone number, and they say, you know what, we're thinking about a trade. Like, oh, what, like maybe like Kyrie Irving, or you want to give us one of your bigs, Daniel Gafford? Like, no, Luka Doncic. You first of all, you hit the mute button on your phone. Are you freaking kidding me? They want us to give us Luka. Hey, what do you want for Luka? Anthony Davis. Okay. And he picks, no picks, just like Max Christie or something. That's it. Mute the phone again. They're gonna give us Luka Doncic for nothing. Just 80 and like a role player, and that's it. Yes, we would like to make that deal. Rob Pelinka, his job was to be a warm body in that situation. Do the bare minimum of your job. Yes, you take Luka. For all his flaws, you take freaking Luka Doncic, who's what, 6'7" years younger than Anthony Davis? Yeah, that's a no-brainer. But in last offseason, no moves. Because, hey, we're looking forward to the future. And at the trade deadline, Luke Kennard, good move because we know LeBron loves shooters and Luka Doncic loves to have shooters around him, but it didn't make your team better. He got rid of Gabe Vincent, I guess, which was a plus. Gabe Vincent was awful for the Lakers, but at the end of the day, it's obviously not a team that has any chance of contending for a championship now. And when you read the reports out of LA suggesting that, hey, they're hoping to be the Giannis sweepstakes in 2026 in the 2026 offseason. First of all, I've said this a million times. I've said this about my Warriors, and we have a better package than the Lakers have. Who are the Lakers going to give up? LeBron's going to be a free agent. LeBron's either going to retire or go to Cleveland, I think. I think we are definitively seeing the final season of LeBron James as a Los Angeles Laker. I would be stunned if he's back in LA next season. It's either going to be retirement or Cleveland. My guess is Cleveland. So Bron's gone. I guess Austin Reeves, but is that going to be the centerpiece of a deal in which you don't have as good of picks as future picks as Golden State does, as the Miami Heat do, as a team, if they were interested, a Houston Rockets, San Antonio, God knows you don't have the assets of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Chicago Bulls are trying to maybe make a push for Giannis and Antetokounmpo. So you're not getting Giannis. There are even some reports suggesting, hey, they might make a push for Jokic in a couple of... Learn from the mistakes of the Golden State Warriors, who generally have been a well-run franchise. That goes without saying. But after Kevin Durant left in 2019, the Warriors they made the Wiggins trade in 2020, but they kept kind of waiting for the opportunity to get that next Kevin Durant to pair with Steph Curry, where it's Steph's still awesome. Steph Curry won a championship with Andrew Wiggins as the second best player in 2022, and with Klay Thompson, Draymond Green playing a pretty below their standard finals in 2015. Andre Iguodala was the second best player. Steph doesn't have to have top 5 player in the league to win titles. We've seen him do that multiple times. Just give him good ancillary pieces. Pascal Siakam, there were some discussions between the Warriors and the Raptors. He gets moved to Indiana. OG Anunoby, that was a discussion early 2024. He gets moved to the New York Knicks. Both guys that would have helped tremendously in Golden State. Surround Luka with the proper ancillary players. If you want to keep Austin Reeves long-term, okay. If you want to move him along with a pick and a player, whatever the deal looks like, get multiple teams involved, we'll see, for a legit number 2 co-star like Luka had with Kyrie Irving, okay. Construct your roster similar to the way Dallas constructed theirs in 2024 and got to a finals. But don't be selling out. The Giannis thing's a pipe dream for the Lakers. That's got a 0% chance of happening. Who are they giving up? You might say, well, they might have a multi-team deal. Yeah. Because after getting Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis and a box of cookies, yeah, I'm sure the rest of the NBA is going to be like, you know what we should do? Do the Lakers a solid. Let's give them Giannis too. That's not happening. And Jokic, maybe, but now you're just wasting 2 years of Luka's prime. Like, is it really worth it? So, long as you're employing Rob Pelinka Lakers, good for me as a Warriors fan. I like to see it. Okay, so again, we do this segment every Wednesday. It's called Carving Up the Context. Essentially, I, on most cases, look at a story, kind of go a little bit deeper, see what other folks are saying, and being like, I feel like we're not going quite deep enough on that topic that we could. In this subject, it's going to be a little bit different. So, first of all, let's just get right into business. As the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, give me my theme music. This week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than usual. We're basically going to be looking at things that I've said in the past and seeing how it held up today. Basically, like, shout out to my man Colin Cowherd. Colin always does a segment every Monday where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. That's kind of what this segment is going to be, in that every single year, right before the playoffs, the week going into the NFL playoffs, I look at all 14 playoff teams and say, okay, what's the biggest reason this team won't win the Super Bowl? What's the biggest reason this team's going to get knocked out in the playoffs? Well, we uploaded those graphics once again, and let's see how well I did. So it's not going to be 14 teams because one of them won. It was the Seattle Seahawks. First of all, let's look at Seattle's. Of course, I was wrong because they won the Super Bowl, but let's show Seattle's. Darnold has had the spooks for 2 months, and that, honestly, the numbers bore it out, was the case going into the postseason. Darnold didn't seem to have the spooks of the postseason. No turnovers, was fantastic in the NFC Championship game, outplayed Stafford, and Stafford was great in his own right against the Los Angeles Rams. So obviously dead wrong on Seattle and dead wrong on Darnold. So just by definition, I'm always going to get one wrong because someone's going to, win the Super Bowl. But let's look at the rest of the teams. We're going to start in the AFC and look at each and every single playoff team, what I have as their biggest weakness, and you decide, I'll decide if I got that right. We'll start from 17 on up in the AFC with the Los Angeles Chargers. I pretty much hit the nail on the head. I hate to say it, but, O-line is a mess, just like Justin in January. He was sacked multiple times. I think it was 7 times, if I'm not mistaken, in the game against the New England Patriots. Justin Herbert was utterly atrocious. Again, this is a guy who, in his last 30 playoff drives, has not led a team on a touchdown drive in 29 of them. So 29 of his last 30 possessions, he has not scored a touchdown in the postseason. So I think I nailed that one. We knew the offensive line was a problem with the Chargers. We knew Justin Herbert gets tight in the biggest moments. I think I was correct on that one. For the Buffalo Bills, thought I was going to be wrong, but turned out I was right. Can't close big playoff games. And again, it is most of that stem, the way I explained it last month, was to Josh Allen. It's like he's never had a game-winning drive in the playoffs. He's never beaten a quarterback of his caliber outside of Lamar, who has his own playoff struggles that are probably worse than Josh's. And in that playoff game against Jacksonville, like, oh, here we go. That's the Josh Allen moment. That's the first big playoff moment by Josh Allen since the 13-second game that they lost to Kansas City. Led a game-winning drive, the fourth down scramble, fourth down tush push, I should say, beats the Jags on the road. Here we go. Go on the road to Denver. You're a favorite, and you turn the football over 4 times, including a critical one in overtime, which, Bills fans, it was obviously an interception. If you don't know that, either in denial or you don't know the rules. Regardless of that, again, Josh is, you're going to see where I've got him ranked. I've got him ranked where a lot of folks do on Bryson's best 10 of my top 10 quarterbacks. He's a transformative talent at the position. But the moment has looked too big at times. This is 3 straight postseasons, folks, in which Josh Allen has had the ball in his hands with a chance to tie or win the football game, and he's lost. Divisional round 2023 against Kansas City, down 3. I think it was like 7 minutes to go. Came up empty. 2024, down 3 minutes to go. Chance to tie or beat the Chiefs. Got 1 first down on that drive. And against the Denver Broncos, his turnovers are the only reason Denver was even in it. Denver never forced a punt by Buffalo. Every drive either ended with a touchdown, a field goal, or a turnover. Never forced a punt. Josh had 4 turnovers. A couple of them that handed Denver 6 points that could have been 10 points. And, of course, the interception overtime. So Josh is awesome, and Josh leaves a lot of meat on the bone in the postseason. So I think I was right on that one, too. So among teams that lost the playoffs, so take out Seattle, 2 for 2. Let's go now to the Houston Texans. I think I kind of nailed this one. Stroud stinks against good teams. Now, in the regular season, he had more interceptions than touchdowns against good teams. Folks, in the postseason, a credible argument can be made that C.J. Stroud was quite simply the worst quarterback in the entire postseason. If you look at Stroud's postseason numbers, it's remarkable how bad they are against the Steelers and against the New England Patriots. This is insane. Do we have the graph? Okay, here it is. C.J. Stroud, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks, a 51 passer rating, and a QBR, I'm shocked it's this high, of 37, completing 51% of his throws. We knew the regression from year 1 to year 2. It's like, maybe that's the offensive line. And Stroud at least did play very well in that one playoff game against the Chargers last year. They should have beaten my Steelers 40-6, not, whatever the score was, 30-6. He was awful. And against the Patriots, he just looked lost. Like, to waste a team that had the best defense of football, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter and Derek Stingley Jr. and all these guys, to waste that because your quarterback just was seeing ghosts out there, like to the point where we are actively suggesting, man, should Davis Mills play the second half of the Patriots game? That's a problem, and that's going to be a big problem for the Texans moving into next year. So thus far, 3 for 3. I'm going to call not just 4 for 4, but 5 for 5 because it's my team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What were their biggest weakness? Can't get stops in the biggest moments and slow starts in playoff games. Well, 2 for 2. Can't get stops in the biggest moments. That was in reference to the fact that the Steelers were the worst fourth quarter scoring defense in the NFL. Well, what'd they do in the playoff game against the Houston Texans? They had their worst scoring quarter defensively of the game. Texans blew it open. And of course, slow starts. Need I remind you, at one point, They were down 21-0 to the Jags in 2017. They were down 21-0, if I remember correctly. Yes, 28-0 to the Browns in 2020. 35-7 to the Chiefs 2021. In 2023, they were down 21-0 to Buffalo. 2024 down 21-0 to the Ravens, who they always play close games with, but not in the playoff game, of course. And then down 30-6 against the Houston Texans, and Mike Tomlin resigned. Like, much to my delight, that was the Steelers' story of their season. Of course, it's the reason they exited. I'm going to go 5 for 5. It's my team. I was 2 for 2 on it. I'm 5 for 5. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Average pass defense if they can't force turnovers. Well, they forced no turnovers against Buffalo, and the Bills scored 27 points on that Jacksonville defense. I think mainly for this team, Trevor obviously had the multiple turnovers and can't be excused. A couple of them probably shouldn't have been, interceptions, but guess what? They still count the same. I thought Trevor was great in that game, had multiple fourth quarter touchdown drives to give them the lead. Defense couldn't get a stop. Jacksonville feast on turnovers, could not get off the field against the Buffalo Bills. That did them in, so I would say that I was correct on that one. For New England, and I thought I was going to be wrong on this one. Turns out, wasn't the case. They struggle against equals. They struggle against their equals in weight class. Well, as we saw this season, 13-1 against teams under 500, including the postseason, 4-3 against teams over 500. And the first team in the playoffs that they faced that could punch back offensively, they got smoked. And it wasn't because their defense necessarily, it's because their quarterback kind of melted. And we'll get to him. We'll get to the top 10 list later in the show. But New England, once they faced the big dogs of the Seattle Seahawks, overwhelmed in every way, shape, and form. And finally, for the Denver Broncos, late game pixie dust will run out. Again, they had the reason I gave that is because they had of all playoff teams, they had the highest percentage of their wins came by one score. Like they did not blow people out. And I'll be honest, it's kind of more of an incomplete than a wrong, but Bo Nix gets hurt at the end of that game against, New England, against Buffalo. Who knows what that game would have looked like against New England? Still becomes a blizzard. How would Bo have handled the snow as opposed to Jarrett Stidham? I'll say wrong. I know they lost by 3 at the end, but the blizzard just convoluted things. I can't just pump my chest out and say, see, I told you the Broncos will lose eventually. It was 10-7 because it was a blizzard in the second half of that game. I'll take the L on that one. Let's go to the NFC now. So what did I go there? 7 of 8, basically, include 2 with the Steelers, because I was right on both of their weaknesses. So 7 of 8, pretty good. Let's go to the NFC. For the Green Bay Packers, their biggest weakness, hit this one on the head. Late game execution leaves things to be desired. Well, they were up 21-3 at the half, and they had an 11-point lead with 5 minutes left, with the Bears having a 4th and 8 offensively. So you tell me they couldn't close the game. Enough said. For the San Francisco 49ers, next man up, they're at him in. And Purdy is a bad trailing QB. So I will say a half point because I was wrong on the Purdy aspect, at least for this postseason, because he did lead a game-winning drive to beat Philly. I can't crush Purdy for the Seattle game. Man, they were out. Seattle had more bodies, and we saw what Seattle did in New England and teams all season long. The fact that San Francisco even got to the divisional round is a credit to Kyle Shanahan. I'm not going to kill Purdy for that. But the next man up, they're at him in. Yeah. And they continue to suffer injuries in the postseason. McCaffrey, got beat up in the Seahawks game. Like they just ran out of guys. 12 wins to get to the divisional round with the circumstances San Francisco faced. Pretty darn impressive. And Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, who's now in Tennessee, deserve a ton of love. So I'll say a half point for that. For the Los Angeles Rams, I get the nail on that here. Their defense has been terrible for a month. Well, it was. They were, I think, the 26th ranked defense in the National Football League from Thanksgiving on to the final game of the year. And again, in their postseason games, they gave up 31 to the Carolina Panthers. They gave up 17 to the Chicago Bears. But, of course, 7 of those points came on maybe the throw of the year by Caleb Williams, a total break in the secondary. And then they gave up 31 to Seattle. Their defense came apart. Stafford was great in 2 of the 3 playoff games, clutch in the Bears game. And the defense couldn't get off the field, so I would say I was correct in that one. For the Panthers, this was my first straight up wrong. They're easily the worst team in the playoffs. No, that was not the case. I think, much as I hate to admit it, worst team in the playoffs is probably Pittsburgh. You sneak in, terrible division, you play a team that's better than you at home, by the way, and you just get whacked in the fourth quarter of that game. If CJ Stroud was a starting level quarterback, or at least played like one, it would have been even worse. So I was wrong on that, Carolina. I apologize. You had a lead with 30 seconds left over the Rams. took Matthew Stafford doing MVP stuff to win that game. My apologies, Carolina Panthers. Bad division, but I apologize. For the Philadelphia Eagles, their biggest weakness was the offense flies away in the second half. Well, in that game against the San Francisco 49ers, what do you know? Philadelphia scored 6 points. Didn't muster a touchdown drive, and of course got stopped on fourth down at the end. It was a matter of A.J. Brown drops. Jalen Hurts at times would struggle with his accuracy. Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo with some weird play calling. Saquon Barkley was quiet. That was the story. Philadelphia was one of the worst, if not the worst, second half offense in all of football. Of course, that comes back to bite them in their playoff loss. 13 points scored in the first half, 6 in the second half. That's what did the Philadelphia Eagles in. For the Chicago Bears, finally, because again, Seattle did win, so we're not going to do Seattle. They were the monsters of the midway defense. I really can't knock them that much because their defense, to their credit, did show up in the second half and that comeback against Green Bay. And then against the Rams, it took overtime for the Rams to get to 20. Now, you can say that's because of 15-degree weather and snow, and the Rams aren't used to playing those conditions. But by and large, the Bears defense actually kind of kept them in that game and obviously played great in the second half of that Packer game, so I'll take the L on that one. So what is that? So I was 7 for 8 in the AFC. So 8 for 9, half points, so 8.5 for 10, 9.5 for 11, 9.5 for 12, 10.5 for 12. 10, okay, so 10.5 out of 13. Not bad. I'll take it. Okay? Let me do my some quick calculative work. 10.5 divided by 13. That's pretty good. 80% correct on the biggest weaknesses for every single playoff team, and what ended up doing him in the postseason. Not bad. I'll take it. So, on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, honestly, I didn't look. I kind of want to be surprised a little bit. I didn't look into what the percentage was. I didn't look that deep. I just kind of loaded the graphics and, hey, let's see if that lined up with what actually did happen to this team in the postseason. And turns out, pretty good. 80%. I think that's my highest mark ever. So 10.5 out of 13. I'll take the W on that one. All right, that's it for this week's edition of Carving Up the Context. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Very, very excited for that. All of that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Just took a big gulp of water, man. That kind of hurt. Okay, so I always do this entering the NFL season. Sorry, my voice is kind of jacked up. I'd always do this entering the NFL season and then coming out of it. I rank my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League. Before I do that, a couple of orders of business. Number one, I should have mentioned this in my playoff weaknesses because, again, I'm obviously more locked in. I'm locked in the whole league, but we're all a lot more locked in our teams than the other 31. So with my Steelers, I said, but go and put up the weakness back up on the screen, what I had for Pittsburgh. What did I have? Can't get stops the biggest moments. That was true. And slow starts in playoff games. That was true as well. I could have also mentioned the fact that Aaron Rodgers is a below average playoff quarterback post Super Bowl in 2010. So you could also say, you done messed up, Aaron, because he was atrocious in that game against Houston. So hopefully that was the final. I'll be honest. Selfishly for my show, I hope that's not the last game of Aaron's career. As a Steelers fan, I really hope it's the last game of his career in Pittsburgh. My guess is, maybe I'm hoping against hope, I really hope that he retires. Because if there's anyone he's likely to sign with, it's Pittsburgh with his old coach, Mike McCarthy. Oh, God, I hope this guy doesn't come back and just be the toxic force he has always been for a long time. Regardless, past that. Rogers Run probably won't like that, but who cares? Check out some Carving Up merch. You can scan the QR code on the top left of your screen. Scan that. Check out Carving Up merch. We got hats, t-shirts, mugs, the whole bit. You can also check out our other merch from other Grid Network shows. You can get just Grid Network merch. I've got a Grid Network hat. I've got a Carving It Up t-shirt and coffee mug. Feel free to check out all of those things. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So again, I always rank my top 10 quarterbacks in the league coming into the season and then exiting the season. And really the one exiting the season is probably the more meaningful one because that's going to hold, in my mind, it's going to hold for the next 7 months before week 1 of 2026. So let's go and get the background music going and rank my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League today. Here we go. All right, we will start at number 10, the 10th best quarterback in the National Football League. I'm very happy to see this guy made it. It is Caleb Williams. Caleb is the 10th best quarterback in the National Football League, and here's why. So you saw moments of brilliance in his rookie year, but it was a little erratic, not terribly accurate. There definitely needs to be some polishing on his game. Well, enter Ben Johnson, be able to rebuild the offensive line in Chicago, and it's like, holy crap, that guy looks special. So the numbers, again, the completion percentage ain't great, but 30 total touchdowns and 7 picks, over 4,300 yards. I think Bears fans will take that, and I think they'll take it quite happily. A 90 passer rating, that's more of an efficiency stat, mostly related to the 58% completion percentage, and he's got to improve that. But guess what? Josh Allen had a 52% completion percentage his first year in the league. I would not be shocked whatsoever if a year from now today, if I come out, do this list again, if I'm not saying, and the 4th best quarterback is Caleb Williams, I think he is due to have a massive 2026 because the first half of this year was just figuring out Ben Johnson's offense, figuring out, what he wants to do, how he can play his game, which is very much improvisational. We saw the 4th down throws against the 4th down throw against Green Bay in the first playoff game. Obviously, the insane off-balance 45-yard toss to Cole Kmet to tie the second playoff game. The kid is special. The kid brings all of the tangible and intangible qualities to the ability, except he's not that accurate. Well, guess what? That can be improved. Raw natural ability cannot be taught and coached. Caleb Williams is the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. The 9th best quarterback in the NFL is a guy I also loved more than everybody else. Not more than everybody else, but have stuck to him more than anybody else out of the 2021 draft. It is my man, Trevor Lawrence, who is the 9th best quarterback in the National Football League, and here's why. So, I can mention the fact that, he finished in the top 5 for MVP. That feels notable. I can mention the fact that he led the Jaguars to 13 wins after having a 4-win season the previous year. I can mention the fact that this is a put up or shut up year for Trevor Lawrence, as I said it was before the year, and he leads the Jags to the AFC South Division Championship and his 5th in the league in touchdown passes. Let's just show that post-Thanksgiving, from Thanksgiving on to the end of regular season, he was the best quarterback in football, including Stafford, May, what have you. 1st in touchdowns, last in picks, 1st in total yards per game, 2nd in passer rating, 1st in QBR, 2nd team points per game, and 1st in record. And the fact the record part's quite notable because the fact they had to hold off Houston, who was, on their tail in the second half of the year for the division title. Trevor Lawrence was special. You see the arm talent. He's improved the decision-making. That was kind of his big issue. He had the multi-turnover playoff game against Buffalo, but you got to take risk in the postseason. I want to see him be able to dial that back should Jacksonville make another run to the postseason next year. Trevor Lawrence is the 9th best quarterback in the NFL. This next one might be kind of controversial, but I'll back it up. The 8th best quarterback in the NFL, and fans of this team would have been thrilled if he made the list at all coming into the season, but maybe expectations should fall a little bit based on the playoffs. Just show his name. It's Drake May. Drake May is the 8th best quarterback in the National Football League, and here's why. So we're going to show 2 separate, sets of graphics. One is one graphic, and then there's a set of graphics. The reason he's on the list is this graphic. These are the stats that helped him get 2nd place for MVP and almost the MVP just by a single vote. 35 total touchdowns, 8 picks, 72% completion, 4,800 total yards, 113 rating, and a 77 QBR. In the rating QBR, both best in the National Football League. So that's the good side. That's the, oh my gosh, he makes all the hard throws look easy to a certain degree. He's got a command. He's great with his legs. The downside is, and I illustrated this on Monday's show, the full clip is on YouTube. Feel free to check it out anytime. But he was quite simply, post-2000, the worst and least efficient playoff quarterback with a minimum of 3 starts we've ever seen. Show the raw numbers. Again, more turnovers than touchdowns, 58% completion, 82 rating, 40 QBR. Those are the raw numbers. But if we're going to talk about EPA, was a big reason that people said Drake May should be MVP. Well, worst playoff EPA since 2000. Drake May is the worst. Or at least, Drake May is the worst. So Peyton Manning 2015, Peyton in 2015 was shot. Rex Grossman in 06, Flacco in 08, Goff in 18, and that says 2020. That should say 2000 with Kerry Collins. Some of the 6 worst playoff EPA since 2000. Drake May has the worst. And in terms of raw passer rating, he had the worst passer rating drop in the last 30 years. So Drake May is in last. Manning, oddly, in 06, actually won his first Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. He's on the list. Flacco in 08, Drew Bledsoe in 96, Jared Goff in 2018. So moral of the story is Drake May, the Patriots got to the Super Bowl in spite of him. They were in the position as the 2 seed, as a 14-win division champion of the AFC East because of Drake May. They got to the Super Bowl in spite of Drake May. He was bad in the first half of the playoff game against the Chargers. He was fortunate Justin Herbert was just even worse. In the second playoff game, kind of similar scenario, although he did play well, I thought, in the second half against Houston. Even prior to the blizzard, he was terrible against Denver. In the first half of the AFC title game in the Super Bowl, the numbers are what they are. You got 200 passing yards in the fourth, but first 3 quarters, non-existent. Didn't see the field well, was throwing bad picks in the second half. He's got room to grow. He's got room to grow as it pertains to reading the field better, all of these things. That will happen. That as of right now, indisputably a top 10 quarterback. No way on planet Earth, based on his playoff performance, that is a top 5 quarterback, or frankly, that far close to it. It is Drake May, who's the 8th best QB in the NFL. Let's welcome the newest Super Bowl winning quarterback to the group. It is slinging Sam Darnold, who is the 7th best quarterback in the National Football League. Well, why do I say that is because, listen, Sam, and I've showed this graphic, I think, all season long, and let's show you the finished product of this graphic. Sam Darnold since 2024, tied for 4th in touchdowns, 14th in completion, 7th in pass yards per game, 8th in passer rating, number 1 in record. He is only the 2nd quarterback in NFL history to have back-to-back 14-win seasons. The other, probably heard of him, Tom Brady, who did it in 03-04. Darnold did it in 24 and 25, and he's only the 5th quarterback in NFL history to have back-to-back seasons where combined he had 30 wins. You're talking about guys like Terry Bradshaw, Brett Favre, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Sam Darnold is in that group. Obviously, how it ended in Minnesota wasn't great. He stepped into Seattle, and folks are saying, the team kind of carried him. They don't get to this game. As great as that Seahawks defense was, they didn't look so great against Matt Stafford in the championship game, did they? Sam Darnold was sensational in that game against the LA Rams to get them to Super Bowl, played mistake-free football in the Super Bowl, didn't give New England any short fields, which I thought could be a little bit of a concern. Sam Darnold, monkey's off his back. Pressure's off. Let's see how he continues to grow and develop. He is the 7th best quarterback in the National Football League. I will fight for this next dude till I die, and I think his production this season proved it. At number 6 is my man, Rain Dakota Prescott. Haven't said that in a while. Dak Prescott is the 6th best quarterback in the National Football League. Here's why. For those that defend, and by the way, haven't gotten him on the list yet. He's obviously on it. For those that defend Joe Burrow, oh my gosh, Joe Burrow's got the 2 receivers, but god-awful defense. We don't really trust the coach. Bad ownership. We not say exactly the same thing about Dak Prescott. Show Dak this season. It was arguably the best year of his career, with the exception of 2023. 4th in touchdowns, 11th in completion, 3rd in pass yards per game, 8th in passer rating, 4th in QBR. The Dallas Cowboys averaged 27 points per game, which was 7th in the National Football League. This is despite CeeDee Lamb in and out of the lineup with injuries. This is despite George Pickens being the head case that he is, and he's still the best year of his career with Dak. This is despite an offensive line that was bottom 5 in the league in pass block win rate. This is despite the fact that Brian Schottenheimer, who shows signs of promise, still is a rookie head coach. Was exactly, Ben Johnson out there. Wasn't incompetent, but he wasn't Ben Johnson. He wasn't a brilliant young mind, so to speak, on the opposite side of the football. So what Dak did with this Cowboys team, the fact that we were thinking, man, post-Thanksgiving, Dallas could be in the playoffs. If Dallas is in, they are a danger. Dak's the reason we were having that conversation to begin with. Dak at points this year was a legitimate MVP candidate before the Cowboys fell off, before the defense got even worse. Because the doofus owner traded the best defensive player in the NFC. But that's beside the point. Rain Dakota Prescott, 6th best quarterback in the NFL. If Dallas does anything with that defense, I think Dallas is going to win the NFC East next year. Now we're getting in the top 5. At number 5, it is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the 5th best quarterback in the National Football League, and here's why. So, and we're going to do this with Lamar too. Obviously, we haven't gotten to Lamar yet. He's on the list. But guys that dealt with a cluster of injuries, we did this with Dak last year. Guys that dealt with a cluster of injuries, which Joe Burrow did in 2025, we're going to show his 2024 stats. So the last time he was fully healthy, pretty good. 43 touchdowns, 9 picks, 70% completion, 4,900 pass yards, a 108 rating, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 72. Joe Burrow was sensational, or I guess now 2 seasons ago. This year, showed some signs, was dealing with the injury, had the turf toe in week 2 against Jacksonville. The Bengals fell apart. Again, just by virtue of him being away, you see how valuable he is to the Cincinnati Bengals. But there also is an element of, again, some of this is by no fault of his own, but we have not seen Joe Burrow win a playoff game since 2022. It's not his fault necessarily. Some of it is he is injury prone. Remember, he had the appendectomy. He had the injury his rookie year with the ACL. He had I think it was a thumb injury, if I remember correctly, in 2023. Had the turf toe last year. Like that's been a bit of an issue. Not all of it has been related to Cincinnati's offensive line. That said, when this dude is healthy, he is quite simply the most accurate thrower of the football in the National Football League. Bengals, God knows they're lucky to have him. Will they have him next year? Who knows? Joe Burrow is the 5th best quarterback in the National Football League. His counterpart in the AFC North is on this list at number 4. It is Lamar Jackson. Lamar is the 4th best quarterback in the National Football League. Here's why. So again, Lamar also missed some time due to injury. So let's show the last time and I think his struggles last season were almost exclusively related to injuries, because we know Lamar's got issues in the playoffs. Regular season's never been a problem for him. Last time he was healthy in a regular season, a lot of folks thought he should have won MVP for the 3rd time in his career. 45 total touchdowns, 8 picks, 66% completion. The man had over 5,000 yards total. 5,087 yards to be exact, a 119 rating rather, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 74. Lamar was out of this world the last time he was fully healthy back in 2024. This year, dealt with injuries. There was the Harbaugh stuff. Ravens couldn't hold a lead with Lamar. They couldn't hold a lead without Lamar Jackson. And to his credit, I thought he was unreal in the 4th quarter against my Steelers in that Week 18 game. He put him in position to win, but Tyler Loop and that football and maybe divine intervention, as we talked about last month, had other ideas. But listen, with the new head coach and Jesse Minter, hopefully a better staff, a better offensive coaching staff in Baltimore, I think Lamar Jackson is going to bounce back 2026. He is the 4th best quarterback in the league. He, by the way, also has 2 league MVPs. Feels important. At number 3, some folks have him 1. I have no bleeping clue how. I've got him 3. It is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the 3rd best quarterback in the National Football League, and here's why. So Josh is indisputably top 3. Can't make a case for 3 guys ahead of him. Josh is the best arm in the league. He is, outside Lamar, the most mobile, the most dangerous quarterback using his legs in the National Football League. Maybe you can, just because of his raw power and athleticism and size, maybe he's even more dangerous than Lamar because of how reckless even at times he can play as a ball carrier. But listen, he's lessened the turnovers to a degree the last couple of years with Joe Brady, although Joe Brady now, head coach, we'll see how that plays out. The downside has been the postseason big moments. But last season, Josh Allen, finished in the top 3 for MVP, 39 total touchdowns, 10 picks, 69% completion. Like I said, that was a problem early in his career, not now. 4,200 total yards, a 102 rating, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 65. And again, the biggest defense, I think, of Josh Allen last season was it was arguably the worst receiving core of his career. Now, you could say, yeah, but he's still a great O-line. He still had James Cook, leading rusher in the NFL, and he still had 2 excellent tight ends. But when you're talking about a receiving core with, Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir is a good player. He's not a number 1 receiver. When you're having your 1st-round pick from a couple of years ago, Keon Coleman, your first pick a couple of years ago, Keon Coleman, in and out of the lineup because he's a healthy scratch. The Bills coaching staff doesn't believe in his maturity and what have you. It was a chaotic season for Buffalo. So on the bright side, Josh Allen got this team to 12 wins and got them a playoff win against a 13-win Jags team. On the downside, A lot to be desired as it relates to showing at in the big moments. Josh Allen is the third best quarterback in the National Football League. At number 2, it is the league MVP, Matt Stafford, second best quarterback in the NFL. Here's why. So the man in year 17 just had the best year of his career. Show Stafford this year, he was an absolutely deserving league MVP. First in touchdowns, first in yards. He was 17th in completion percentage, which isn't great, but second in passer rating, fourth in QBR, and the Rams were the number 1 offense in the National Football League. When you consider the fact that this was a guy at this time last year, is Stafford going to retire? Remember there was discussions, is he going to go to the Giants? Because I think he had like a relative on Dable's coaching staff. I think he's happy, and the Rams are very, very happy that he stayed in Los Angeles and had the year that he had. Having to carry a bad defense in the second half of the regular season, do it against Carolina on the road, do it against the Bears on the road, putting in the position on the road in Seattle. By the way, those 2 road games against the Seahawks this year, that unstoppable defense, which it's great. This is what Stafford did against them. He was amazing. 6 touchdowns, no picks. He averaged 415 pass yards. 60% completion, but a 117 rating and 84 QBR. Rams averaged 32 points a game and lost both. Obviously, you remember that overtime game, week 16, that probably cost them the 1 seed, against the Seattle Seahawks when they blew the 16-point fourth quarter lead. He still led a touchdown drive in overtime, and then again, put them in position to win. The defense could not get a stop on Darnold and the Seahawks. So, yes, Matt Stafford, unbelievable year. See if he's able to come anywhere close to that in 2026. He's already announced he's coming back at his MVP speech. The MVP, Stafford, second best quarterback in the league. Oddly, this is still a controversial take. I don't know how. The best quarterback in football is still Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is the best quarterback in football, and here's why. So, in the previous 9 guys I've listed, it's been a combination of how they finished the season. Trevor Lawrence. It's been a combination of guys like Lamar and Burrow. Well, they weren't healthy this year, so what were they the last time they were healthy? Guys like Burrow and Dak, who carried bad rosters to competence this season. They, in their own right, had an excellent season. Guys like Drake May, great regular season, awful playoffs. In the case of Patrick Mahomes, we could go to the last time he was fully healthy. I don't know. The Chiefs won 15 games, went to a 3rd straight Super Bowl. Or we could just look at the fact that his playoff resume is the 2nd greatest in the history of the NFL. He is 1st in win percentage, 1st in pass rating, 1st in completion, 2nd in total yards per game, 2nd in touchdown to INT ratio, 2nd. He's already 2nd in playoff wins before he even turned 30, which he turned this year. 2nd in game-winning drives, 2nd. In Super Bowl appearances, tied for 4th in Super Bowl wins, tied for 2nd in Super Bowl MVPs, 2nd in conference championship appearances. And I'm supposed to believe that guy's washed? He's got Eric Bieniemy back. Whether Kelsey comes back, I'll be honest, respect to the great Travis Kelsey, I don't think is going to necessarily make or break their chances of being competitive next year. We know Mahomes is the ACL. We'll see how he's able to rebound from that going into 2026. But I'm sorry, sue me for taking the guy in his prime, by the way, who's the 2nd greatest playoff quarterback of all time, which in my mind makes him the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time. I'm going to roll with him as the best still in the game. Josh Allen still's yet to beat him. And as great as Stafford is, Matt Stafford does not have the playoff highs that one Patrick Mahomes has had. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the National Football League. Go and put up the list. Here you go. Bryson's best 10. From 10 to 1, it is Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Sam Darnold, Drake May, Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. And that's going to be the list we have going into 2026. Of course, you imagine it will be a little bit different a year from now after Super Bowl 61 in LA. So there you go. I'm amazed at again, maybe it's just as simple as I hate the Chiefs because they won a lot. That was the case. It was a Brady. I think the beautiful thing to see, Super Bowl 50 was in Santa Clara. Super Bowl 60 was in Santa Clara. Super Bowl 50, this is when Tom had 4, not 7 championships. They're announcing all of the Super Bowl MVPs. And Jim Nantz goes, the MVP of Super Bowl, I think it was 36, 38, and 49 from the New England Patriots, Tom Brady. Boo. And Brady's from the Bay Area. Showered with boos. 10 years later, they're introducing some of the Super Bowl MVPs. Brady comes out. I don't know if this is a standing ovation. A lot of cheers from Seahawks and Patriots fans alike. Obviously, Patriots fans, but Seahawks as well. That'll be the case with Mahomes in a decade. That'll be the case with LeBron in a couple of years. Like, folks say they hate dominance, and then they are giving such athletes nothing but love when they retire. Tale as old as time. Last topic before we get out of here. Just a wild situation the other night between the Charlotte Hornets and the Detroit Pistons, who got into a little bit of an altercation, to say the very least. And we've got a number of suspensions from that game. We can go ahead and show you that. Isaiah Stewart, no shock there. He's involved in this. Isaiah Stewart gets a 7-game suspension. Miles Bridges of the Hornets gets 4. Moussa Diabate also gets 4. And Jalen Duren gets 2 games suspension. Now, he's an all-star this year, but the good news is for him, that suspension applies to regular season games, not the all-star game. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think he's going to be a part of All-Star Saturday night. Is it like the dunk contest or something? I don't know. I don't remember. But Draymond Green was talking on his podcast about this, and I thought he raised a point that I've been saying for years. Take a listen to my man Draymond Green.
I hate when I see people getting on TV saying, this person should get that amount of games. You should suspend them for this amount of games. If you punch someone, there's no guideline. I think they're going to throw the book at Stewie. But I hate these people talking about, oh, man, he should get X amount of games. Who are you? Who the are you? NBA soft. These guys soft. The game's too nice. But then when you get to fighting, they're like, this dude should be out the league. Like, pick a side and stay there. These guys jump ship more than college players in the NIL era.
I couldn't agree more. Because when you consider, when folks, and I've been arguing about this for years with people, oh, the NBA is not a perfect league. I just ripped Adam Silver earlier for a dumb CBA. Everybody in their heart of hearts knows how dumb the second apron and all of that is. But when people talk about it, and you're going to, like clockwork, you're going to hear it this weekend. Oh, man, All-Star game. Guys aren't as competitive as they used to be. They ain't got that dog in them like my favorite players as a kid did. Oh, boy. So we're just going to leave out the fact that Bird and Magic, maybe the most iconic rivalry in NBA history. I think it is the most iconic rivalry in NBA history. More than Wilt and Russell, more than LeBron and Steph. Bird and Magic, then and now, close as ever. Best, I want to say maybe not best friends, but probably as close with one another, in terms of relationship, than any players who weren't teammates in the NBA are. Very tight then and now. We're just going to forget the fact that, it involves Magic Johnson. Again, Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas, 2 of the 5 greatest point guards ever. We remember some of those finals battles in the late 80s, early 90s. Or really the late 80s, 88 and 89. Literally before, I think it was game 1. Was it game 1 of 88 or 89? I forget which. Literally kissed each other on the cheek before the game as a sign of friendship because they were good friends. Before a finals game. If Bron and Steph did that, I can't even imagine. I can't even fathom the outrage that would come the next day or instantaneously because we're in the social media age. So this idea, Michael Jordan used to go golfing and gambling with players for other teams during the season. Michael Jordan could kill or inch, and he did. Because I know this is shocking to people. When people get in competitive settings like the NBA on the court, they can flip the switch in a competitive environment. They can. This idea that guys didn't have friends, that some of the greatest players ever, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, that these guys didn't have buddies off the court for other teams, and they didn't express that sign of respect and affection before finals games at times. Man, this generation's soft. But then you've got a fight like what happened the other night, or more broadly, folks that romance, they love Bill Laimbeer, and they love Dennis Rodman. They love the guys who rough you up, and they hate Draymond Green. Man, Draymond's dirty. Draymond is a goon. He's unserious about basketball. By the way, love Rodman, and I love Bill Laimbeer. Huh? You cannot love those two and hate Draymond. And by the way, people might think, you're just saying this to defend Draymond. Listen, I've been as hard on Draymond the last year and a half as anybody. But I've religiously stated the Warriors do not become a dynasty without this man. I've religiously stated, obviously Steph's the most important part of the dynasty. Draymond's number 2. But he is. The Warriors were still a good team when Clay left. Kevin Durant, one with him, one without him. It's Draymond. And so I think the point he raises about, listen, I understand basketball, oddly more than any other sport. I don't know why. Maybe it's the shoes, it's the posters, I don't know what it is. Basketball, more than any sport, holds a sense of nostalgia in our hearts. Like, yeah, for me, the most joyous time of my life watching basketball was between 2015 and 2019. Watching the Golden State Warriors go to 5 straight finals, play a beautiful brand of ball, watching Steph do his thing and emerge into the superstar that he eventually became, and adding Kevin Durant, those teams were unbeatable. But we also got to celebrate the now, and we don't need to bash the now to glorify the past. Heck, Michael Jordan himself has talked about that. Michael Jordan came out, I think it was last offseason, and because there's been a lot of comparisons, him and Anthony Edwards, not just because A, they kind of look alike, B, because their games are kind of similar, and C, because everyone's waiting. They're waiting for the next Jordan. Kobe was that. Now they're waiting for the next Jordan. They have their Michael posters, and they got their Jordan ones, and they want the next Jordan. What if Anthony Edwards just wants to be Anthony Edwards? I say just. What if he wants to be himself? As Jordan said, I wasn't compared to great shooting guards of years past. I wasn't compared to Jerry West. I wasn't. I got to be my own guy. And I think there's nothing wrong with comparisons. Nothing. It's fun to do that. We do that during the draft every year. But this idea that we have to, if this guy doesn't make me feel as tingly inside as the guys I grew up watching, then by definition, the league is not good anymore. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. NBA has problems. This idea that, they love each other now, they hated each other back in the day, it's nonsense. It's not backed up by the facts at all. Guys can be competitive and be friends with guys. I know that's shocking. I mean, if you're playing your friend one-on-one, you want to beat them. You do. You're going at their necks. So Draymond's 100% right. He's 100% right. All right. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday. We're not going to do a show on Friday. We'll be back Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Twitch, and on Facebook. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We hope everybody has a great rest of their week, great weekend. Be back on Monday again, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Have a good one, y'all. God bless y'all. Peace out. Again, if you love Wemby and Ramen, you gotta love Draymond. Got to. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.